Hi everyone, Clyde Bryant here, and welcome to episode 6 of the Uptown Experts Podcast. I'm sitting here with Pando Kirou, District Vice President, HomeEquity Bank.
Thank you for having me.
Pando, it's a pleasure to have you here because, here at Uptown, we're trying to do something different. And, the reverse mortgage product, HomeEquity Bank as its issuer, it's something that we really believe in. And so when I reached out to you to come and sit down here today, it was to find out, a few things. One, who is Pando Kirou? And, what is this crazy, reverse mortgage product that we hear about? And, so I'm gonna start with the first question.
Okay.
Who is Pando Kirou? Tell us about you, my friend.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's my first podcast. Hopefully many more to follow.
I hope so.
So in saying that, who is Pando Kirou? That's a loaded question. So I'll try to answer it, PG version. Who's Pando Kirou? Pando Kirou is just a guy that was born and raised in Toronto, downtown Toronto. Attended university literally, a mile away down the street at York University. Grew up in Toronto, and probably in my late teens, family decided to move up to a place called Vaughan, nowhere to what it is today, growing Vaughan, and I wasn't too happy about that, living in Toronto, as you can imagine. Got accustomed to it, and now, 30 years later, I'm still in Vaughan. I live with my girlfriend and 11-year-old daughter in Kleinburg.
Very nice.
I believe not too far from you. I think we're neighbors.
Yeah, we're pretty much hop, skip, and the jump.
Exactly. And I've been with HomeEquity Bank on a professional level for the last 7 years.
Wow.
So in a nutshell, I'm a fun guy. I like to think I'm a fun, hip guy. Maybe my age and don't look it, but I love my sports and I love to travel, and I'm all for a good time. And again, with HomeEquity Bank, it's something that I'm passionate about, and I see the true value in the product for sure.
That's absolutely amazing, and it's just the level of experience that you bring to the podcast here today and to HomeEquity Bank as a whole, and just hearing a little bit about you just resonates with all the people that we've brought on as guests thus far, because they're just a little bit different, right? Pando's a local guy, right? And now he's finding a way to give back to the community with education of this reverse mortgage product. And, it's not something that's easy to understand.
Absolutely.
Right. It's something that, I think a lot of people may struggle with, but being a mortgage professional, you're bringing to the table that information. So I guess my question to you is, why did you choose mortgages?
Great question, and I can spin it in a few ways. It may have chosen me, to be honest with you, but taking a step back, I think to understand, when I got out of university, my goal was, and we'll say it out to the crowd and to you today, I was supposed to be a gym teacher. That was my initial goal, and growing up, my love for sports and playing, competitive sports, hockey being one, and soccer for the most part. I'm like, okay, well, the dream came to an end. My NHL career and my, my English Soccer Premier League didn't materialize, if you can believe that. Yeah. So it came to the point now I'm, 23. I got my university degree, and it's time to get a job.
Yeah.
So that's what it came down to. And what do I do at 23? What does any 23-year-old do? Go get a job. So at that point, I'm like, okay, what am I interested in? So I was going to be a gym teacher. Mm-hmm. So prior to applying to teacher's ed to be a teacher, I had a year off. And I want to say maybe a family friend said to me, hey, listen, for better words, you're good with people, you're outspoken, you're funny, try sales. I'm like, sales? I'm not a sales guy. I had a negative connotation to being a sales guy. I'm going to be a gym teacher, I'm going to be the gym. So I said, okay, I'll take summer off. So we got that, from April to September. And you got me a job where, you got to get a briefcase. This is going back to 95, not to age myself. And I said, okay, let's try it out. So I got my first suit, and I'm going to be a sales guy. Got me a job at a small, back then it was an IT hardware software company. So that was my summer job, going and wearing a suit every day and going to an office. And I got to be honest with you, I actually loved it. I love the interaction. I love talking to people. And I actually did well. It was kind of like, this is pretty fun. So now came September, and I go, what do I do now? I tried telling your mom and dad that I'm going to take, I'm not going to be a teacher for now. I'm going to try the sales game, see how that plays out. But I promised, I told my mom, I'll be a teacher one day. Sure enough, what is that? 28 years later, I'm still doing the sales game. Started again with IT, did that for a while. And then I said, time for a change. Then I got into logistics. So anyone that's in that game, it's totally unrelated. And that's when I kind of hit the wall, as people say. And I'm like, I'm getting up every day. I'm not happy at what I'm doing. It's not fulfilling. It's a means to an end. It's paying your bills and getting by. But I'm like, at that point, I hit 40, 42, and I'm thinking, there's got to be more to life. This is not fun. This is not me. And a friend of mine in the industry said, hey, listen, you like money, you like, fun stuff, you like travel, you got to try something new. I'm like, yeah, well, what could it be? So he goes, there's a company, there's a bank that I might be able to get you an interview with. And I'm like, a bank? I said, okay. And, I don't got my MBA. I'm a gym teacher by trade. I'm not a banker. I'm not an economics degree. Well, let's see where this goes. So as they say, the rest is history. I had the pleasure of meeting with HomeEquity Bank. I interviewed with them totally as we are today, kind of talking off the cuff. And then, as they say, the rest is history. They said, we'll give you a chance. We're not sure this is going to work out, but you know what I mean? We're opening a new channel, dealing with the mortgage brokers. They've never done that in their 37 years of existence. So that's going back 7 years now. We're going to try it out. You're new. That's a new market segment for us. Let's see how it goes. And, fingers crossed, it's gone pretty well, I have to admit, to this day. That's what we're doing here today. So, as they said, I took a chance on me, and hopefully it's still working out for a number of years to come.
That's amazing. I mean, just hearing a little bit about that story, it's funny that, it's not that unsimilar to my own, right? Where you kind of hit that wall and you want to make that decision as to what comes next. Right. And, it's amazing to hear that we're not alone. We're not alone. So let's talk about HomeEquity Bank.
Let's do that.
And the products and services.
Okay.
So specifically, the product that we're talking about here today is, I believe, and you tell me, you're the HomeEquity Bank expert here, but I believe the anchor product is the reverse mortgage.
Well, let me correct you that's the only product. And that's kind of, I'm not gonna lie to you, that was a good point for me. Again, you gotta understand my point. I'm coming to something brand new. I have no knowledge of what's loan to value. What is, I have no knowledge of any of those, adjectives and adverbs and buzzwords. And they said, well, there's one product. I go, well, not bad. I can get one. I can get one. You know what I mean? Don't get me another or credit card or line of credit or any other kind of product. I said, it can't be that hard. It's one product. As long as I focus and stay, on the path, I hopefully I'll do well. And that was the consensus. That was the selling point for me, that first and foremost, it's one product. And second of all, if I was going to do this, I got to believe in it. And I think you've got to know me over the 7 years. I had the pleasure of knowing you from day one. It's, if I don't believe it, it's my personality. I can't do it. I can't position. I can't sell. I can't be with something or someone that I don't believe in 120%. And this is something that just felt right. It was just an easy transition that from the get-go I believed in. And at first, when I first heard about this product, I had my doubts. I'm like, tell me more. What's the catch? Or is this too good to be true? And I still get that to this day. We speak about this, I still get that all the time. Yeah. And at first, when those were coming to me, those questions, I was like, well, I had to, I felt like defensive. My back's against the wall. I got to defend this product. I got to defend myself and talk to it. Now I encourage it. Now I welcome it, because I know what it can do. And as you know what the product can do, and change in people's lives for the better.
Definitely.
And in saying that, I welcome that. I want those tough questions. So when I get my day-to-day, every day is a different day. So when I get those questions, I don't get my back up against the wall. I welcome it. I encourage it, because I want to show what this product and this company can do for them, for sure.
So what do you say to the individuals that may have a different opinion about the reverse mortgage product, that are saying, it's not as advantageous as one may think, that, it's dangerous. It's they're going to take my home. It's all the things that even my own clients ask me.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, for us as mortgage professionals, when we're sitting across the table from our clients, we want to be able to speak from a place of knowledge, from a place of comfort. And, what would you say to someone?
First and foremost, when I hear that, again, today speaking, having 7 years of experience and abundance of examples, I put the question back to the client, the broker in question, saying, okay, what have you heard? What do you know? Tell me that. And again, it's not a trick question. It's not a spin selling or spin question, because I'll be honest with you, 99% of the time, it's a water cooler talk, or they've read something, or they've Googled the black rabbit hole per se. And it's right. There's nothing wrong they've done. And I will say this, and I'll send that fact out. I'm not sure you're familiar. In the U.S. today, there's over 100, if I'm not mistaken, last time I checked, 112 to 124 different institutions, credit unions, banks, private lenders that are doing reverse mortgages.
Yes.
It's ridiculous, the amount of people. Again, it's a $350 million company or a country. In Canada, we're 38, 40 million. In Canada, again, we've been around since 1986, so 37 years this year. For the first, give or take, 28, 29, 30 years of our existence, no one else did reverse mortgages. So we were the pioneer, for better words, the only game in town. So, and since that, there's been some other players that have come into the space, but, we are the original CHIP, Canadian Home Income Plan provider of reverse mortgages. So when I talked to that question, we are a Schedule I bank. So as you know, Schedule I bank, we are governed, and we are closely sanctioned and scrutinized on everything that we do, and make sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, as you know. So in keeping in mind, anything that you've heard, or you've Googled, or you've heard negative connotation, has derived from the U.S. So,
and that's what...
And I clarify that from the get-go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
very different products. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because here in Canada, like you said, I mean, you guys are a bank. It's in your name. Right? But people often forget that. And now we're having a conversation about, like, well, would your other banks do this to you?
Absolutely.
You have mortgages with them as well, right? So it's actually, in my professional opinion, a little bit silly that we'd be having such a conversation, when really the product, the program, is actually designed to help you, to help the elderly generation, I'm going to say.
55 plus.
55 plus. I was kind of wondering, how do I phrase that, right? Because I'm just, picturing some of my clients, my mom, who are you calling old, right?
Right, so, absolutely. we don't use seniors and elderly.
No.
It's 55 plus.
55
the mature
plus, exactly.
audience.
The mature clientele. There we go. We're going to use that one from now on. So the mature clientele, it's a program to help them.
Absolutely.
And the help that it can provide is access to capital, to money.
Absolutely.
By utilizing the equity that you have built in your home.
Absolutely.
And so, especially in the city of Vaughan, the city that, we both reside in, the city that I support, but in other places across Canada as well.
We go right across the board. So from Vancouver all the way to Newfoundland, we cover right across the country. Again, not to be salesy on this, and I will say this before I forget, I love those comments or those challenges, those tough questions, because at the end of the day, those brokers, those clients are your number one allies, your number one supporters. Once you show them, and be it the broker or the end user, that, hey, this is not, as bad as I was heard or I was told by my neighbor, my cousin, my next door neighbor's niece's nephew's cousin. Basically, this thing is the real deal. So once they actually walk through that path and they journey through that, should they decide, they become our biggest allies. They become our biggest fans. They're like, hey, listen, I was the biggest critic. I didn't believe in this. I thought it was, you're going to steal my house. I thought you're going to deplete all my income and all my savings. There'll be nothing left for my inheritance or my kids or so on and so forth. Where actually it's been the opposite. We've shown them what we call the buzzword we're using now is, what's that word? I'm drawing a blank here.
It's okay.
It's, one client said to me, you guys are letting me live my inheritance in person. So I don't have to pass.
It's a living inheritance.
Living inheritance.
Yeah.
I don't have to pass and wonder where my money's going to go, or I left it to my kids. I can actually see it while I'm still alive. So you've done a lot for us. So when I hear that passionately affects us. You know, we all have parents, we all have grandparents. So when you hear that, that's the best part of my job.
But that's where the magic happens, right?
Absolutely.
Because now imagine, you know, and I've seen this with some of my own clients. You know, some of my clients that have been with me for years from the start. And, you know, we've set them up with a reverse mortgage product. And, you know, they've taken that reverse and retired and utilized that money that's, you know, being given to them at whatever the interest rate may be, which, you know, I don't know, today maybe 5, 6, 7% in this market, whatever it might be. But they literally handed her a check, deposited into the bank. Here's, you know, $500,000, $600,000. Go ahead, you earned it.
Absolutely.
Because you're able to access 55% of the value of the home, up to. And so I think in this scenario, it was something like, I don't know, 30, 40% of the value of the property. And, you know, she invested the money. And she invested the money at a pace that allowed her to profit, even though she was borrowing the money from HomeEquity Bank. So 7% borrowing, but, you know, investing at 10, 11, 12%, she's been able to save or make 5% on her money every year for the last 7 years.
And that's the power of the product. And the thing that I get to is, oh yeah, but you're depleting at 7, to your point, 6.5%, 7%. At that rate, there's no payments. No, there's no payments. What's the catch? Or, you know, what's the magic button? I go, guys, I don't get it. Well, you know, you're depleting at 6, 7%. I'm going to run out of money. So that's a fair question. I get that often. But the flip side is, and that's when you talk to the broker and the client, your house is valued at $1 million today. You're at 7%. You take that 400 or 500, let's call it. Sure enough, that's growing at that return on that 500,000. That's how we make our money. You know, when you sell, only when you sell or pass, you pay us back with the interest incurred. But that may be in some cases 20, 25, 30 years from now.
Yes.
So my conversation back to the broker or the client is like, your house today is $1 million, $1.2 million, let's say on average. In Vaughan, I get it.
$1.5 million, let's say $2 million.
What's it worth in 30 years?
Well,
let's even be conservative at that point.
Well, if we want to be extremely conservative and say what, 5% appreciation,
right?
And that's ridiculously low, especially in the city of Vaughan.
Absolutely.
But even if we use 5% appreciation on $1 million.
So if we do the math, you're the money guy.
It's
can we ballpark it?
Yeah, it's $50,000 a year.
Yeah, at 20 years, we're up to.
Well, then you're just going to take that. That's another what, $1 million?
So now that house is $1 million.
2 million.
2.2. You're 500. Let's say with your interest, you owe us X amount. You're still going to be left with a minimum over $1 million in equity left.
Well, it's simple math. You're making the 5% appreciation on the full value of the home.
Absolutely.
Versus you're only paying interest, even if it is 5%, 7%, but you're only paying 7% against the value that you borrow. Absolutely,
perfectly said. I'll never forget this. One of my first calls, my first 6 months of the job, you know, the broker asked me, like, can you mind coming in on a call? And I'm meeting with a client. I haven't met with a client in a number of years. I said, you know what, I'm new, I'll do that. So we sat down, and I'll never forget this. It was like yesterday, where you're sitting with your client, and your client tells you, well, what's the interest rate? And he turns to the client, and I was stunned. Don't forget, I'm still fairly new. He's like, who cares?
Exactly.
Sorry? Who cares what the rate is? Because your house is paying, the appreciation is paying the interest. And for me, you know, and again, he's the agent. I'm HomeEquity Bank. It was like a light went off in my head. I'm like, I can't say that, or I wouldn't say that, but he did. And the client got it, is like, you know what, you're right. Where do I sign? And how much more can I get? And that made perfect sense. And from that moment on, I thank him, saying, I think that, even though I may not say it all the time, but that comes across when people are asking, well, what's the interest rate, or, you know, how much money gets appreciated? So you know it all too well. You've done a number of deals. You were one of the pioneers that got it. So that, you know, so when you asked me, it was an honor and a pleasure to come on this podcast, for sure.
Thank you. And yeah, and that's, you know, again, it's just going back to taking the time, the energy, the effort to go deep and try to understand the product that you're going to be putting in front of people, you know. And we say here, it's, the Uptown Difference. What makes us different? It's stuff like this.
For sure.
Where we actually take the time to figure out, what is this product about? What is this lender about? How can we utilize these types of things to benefit our community?
I'll throw this out, don't call it a disclaimer as may, but if you brought me 10 different clients or 10 different seniors, sorry, take that back, not seniors, cut that out. Mature crowd. If you were to bring me 10 individuals, it's not for everyone.
No.
I would say minimum 7 to 8, I find a fit. And again, I'll be the first. This is my integrity. This is my livelihood. After the call, thank you for arranging this meeting with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'll come back to you and say, you know what, Clyde, I don't think this is the right clientele for a number of reasons. And we're on a podcast, we're in a limited time frame. We're not going to get to the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
But in certain cases, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. And I'm the first to tell you that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, when I see it, what's puzzling or upsetting for me is the clients that I see that this is beyond perfect. You have to do this. Yeah. You get it. We had a few of those where it's a no-brainer.
You have the situations where maybe it was mom and dad, and dad's working, mom's not working, single income family.
Right.
And they worked their whole life, they paid off their mortgage, but they have no savings.
It happens a lot.
And
unfortunately, it's life.
So now they're sitting there saying, okay, I went to work. I worked my whole life. I paid off my home.
When do I enjoy it? When do I live?
Exactly. I'm going to be working every day of my life because I don't have any money in the bank. I paid off my house. But now what do you do when you have no cash flow?
But that's a good scenario. The ones that kind of, I don't say hurt, but the ones that are puzzling, and I'm getting to see more and more, is how about those clients, our moms and dads that are in their 70s and 80s that bought a house here in Vaughan, and back in the 80s and 90s, $279, $269.
Exactly.
And now, move ahead 30 years from now. So they've refinanced, they've helped, daughter and son get married, buy cars, do whatever. And now they come to us, they come to you first, and they're saying, you got to help me. And you're like, okay, you're retired. You've been retired for 20 years. You're in your late 70s, early 80s. You bought this house for $279. What do you owe? I've seen mortgages. You've seen them too. We talk about it. And it's hard to say sad, but you see that and you're like, $6, $7, $8, $1 million.
Yeah.
When I first saw this, I was scratching my head. I'm like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
And then one client said to me, or broker said, it's called life. You know what I mean? Life happens. They've had to refinance because, one lost their job, one got sick, the son lost their job, the daughter got divorced. It's kind of the mentality sink or swim. So they've depleted, all the equity, all the savings, and now what? You know what I mean? They've hit that proverbial wall, as they say, and they've come to us. And at times, that's why I said not every client is suited for this product, but for the majority, that's where you and I can assist and show this client, those 7, 8 out of 10 clients, this is the right fit.
I think understanding who it really is suited for and being able to get to those people and, really get them to understand, that's where you're going to be able to make the difference.
100%. And I'll add this final point if we're on the topic. Probably the worst part of this job is when you talk to a broker or a client, and I got this probably in the last year 3 or 4 times. Damn, I wish I knew about you guys earlier, A, and B, is it too late?
Yeah.
When they've sold the parents' house, put them in a home, and or moved into their home, and I wish I knew of you. I wish I knew the product. I wish I talked to Clyde earlier, because that you would have saved us. You would have saved us of getting mom and dad, or just mom or just dad, out of the home that they love, and they had no choice. They didn't want to move, but they had no choice. Financial reasons, health reasons, that we had to sell their home and put them in a group home. Yeah. We all know what happened during COVID. So in saying that, I wish and that's where I feel bad. That's where it's, hate to use an analogy, but too little, too late for us to help them.
Yeah, I know, and that's where or why, pardon me, we're trying to do this today. We're trying to bring education to those that are willing to listen in order to tell them about the product that is there to help. It's there to give you access to real money, tax-free.
Absolutely. Does not affect our pension in any which way. Again, we talked earlier, we're a Schedule I bank, so there's no tax implications, no old pension implications. It's a supplement, and that's where we still get it to this day. This is too good to be true. Or, what's the catch? Again, I'd love to say there is, or there's, be wary of this, be wary of that. The reality is there isn't. Again, we've spoken to it. Yeah, there's no hiding the fact. When the time comes when you need to sell your parents' home or they pass and you have the option, we're not in the market of keeping the home. And when that time does come, eventually it does for all of us.
So
it came for me with my parents.
Away, and now HomeEquity is going to say, okay, it's
what
a traditional
do you want to
mortgage.
It's initial mortgage. Do you want to keep your parents' house? Okay, well, then you owe us X amount of dollars. That's your home. If not, at the time of selling the home, we'll work with you. There's no hard lines and we need the money by next Friday or Rocco's going to be knocking on your door. It's not one of those scenarios. But once the house is sold, at that point you pay off. It's like a regular mortgage, registered in the first position. You pay that mortgage off. The remaining equity is brought back to you. So that's the catch. That's the reality of our product, of what it is today. Plain and simple.
Plain and simple. So if you access the equity now, you have the ability to maybe give some to your kids, your grandkids, see that enjoyment.
Absolutely.
Enjoy a little bit of life yourself because you worked your whole life. And yeah, you should probably take that trip, right? And maybe go buy that recreation home or that vacation home because you earned it.
We're seeing more and more. We call that the savvy clienteles where they get it. They see it like, listen, I just retired. You know what I mean? I'm gonna fixed income of X amount of dollars. That's going to get me just by, I might be able to get a Tim Hortons every other day if I'm lucky. And maybe if I save or I watch my pennies and save my dollars, I might go down to Florida for 4 days in every second year. So, that's okay. But others saying there's got to be more than that. I've worked, like you said earlier, I've busted my life. I've my whole life, and I got to reap the benefits of the joy of that. And I'm all for that. I was, not to get too personal, my parents were that people. They're immigrants from Europe, had a mortgage, and they're, mom and dad's, when are you going to start enjoying it? Me and my brothers are saying oh, no, when we retire, when we pay off the mortgage. And the reality, and the sad reality is, my dad paid the mortgage off. He was 59. 3 months to the day he paid it off. Something called cancer came around, and he passed away suddenly. Now, my mom was left with that, and they left us a house, to me and my brothers, worth over $1 million, we all know, free and clear. And then my mother gets cancer and passes away. And then it's almost to the point where me and brothers feel guilty of, you know what I mean? Like, if, I would have loved, and this is prior to me starting at HomeEquity Bank, I would have loved for them to just enjoy it, or get a reverse mortgage and, be it, travel the world. I would love to see my dad driving a Ferrari or a Porsche up and down the street. It never materialized. It wasn't in their DNA, in their nature. And that's the reality of a lot of our parents today. But it's that guilt that both me and my brothers have to live with, saying, hey, it would have been nice if they could have reaped the rewards and the benefits of their hard work.
Of their work.
Yeah.
So they work so hard.
I take that personal, for sure.
Yeah, they work so hard for you. Like my mother, my parents, they worked their whole lives for us.
Right.
So that we could benefit. But now imagine having a product
that can help them.
That can help them. That can allow them to benefit.
Absolutely.
That's where, for me, it does seem too good to be true. And that's where, you get the scrutiny, and that's where you get the questions. But, it's, again, something that I honestly believe in because I've seen it. I've lived it.
Right.
And so, I'm really going to say, for anybody that needs more information, definitely we're going to make sure that they reach out to us here at Uptown.
Absolutely.
And, we're going to channel that information, some questions that might pop up over to Pando to help us answer if we don't already know.
Absolutely.
Right? So let me ask you this, a little bit more about Pando.
Here we go. Let's go. Keep it light. We're getting a little too serious here.
What motivates you?
Great question. Again, professionally or personally, there's two different areas. On a professional level, we just spoken to it. Nothing feels better than helping out people. Like that's, I'll say this, I've always been a giver. Who doesn't like to receive? Let's be honest. But when it's your mother, your aunt, your distant relative or your client that's in a pickle, in a pinch, and they come to you and then you're able to help them and seeing the gratitude and the gratification, that to me there's nothing better. You know what I mean? I think I'm a firm believer of karma and goodwill. I do good to you, and hopefully down the road, if it's not from you directly, the universe will come back and pay me back in other ways. So I'm a firm believer of that. What's the second part of the question again?
Well, the second part is kind of what's your why? What's your reasoning?
You know what? Life is short. You know what I mean? My dad died at 59. My mom died at 67. So you know what? I'm 51. So I'm living. Like my goal is to travel as much as I can, enjoy life. You know what I mean? I'm fortunate that this job affords me the opportunity financially and the resources to do that, and I'm taking advantage of that. Some people have long-term plans of 25 years, 30 years of retiring and seeing the Eiffel Tower and doing all that. That's not me. I'll be honest with you. I'm doing that now.
I want to see it now.
I'm seeing it now.
When I can enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Not later when I can't walk the stairs.
I'm a firm believer of that. I'm having a hard time now at 51.
Yeah.
We just got back from Paris. We're leaving in 2 weeks for Italy. You know what I mean? And I get hackled or grilled by my friends. Who are you? Yeah, you travel the world? Yeah, I'm a professional traveler. Yeah. That's my goal. You like buying your fancy shiny cars and doing what you got to do. I don't question that.
Yeah.
Put your swimming pool and hot tub. These are my swimming pools and hot tubs for us.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I want to enjoy it and see the world, because when it comes to that time, God willing, in my later years, I want to sit back and remember those times for sure.
Exactly, because you've seen the opposite side of it.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's part of the reason that motivates us all, but the only difference is you're living it now. And we're hoping that with this product
allows us that.
Exactly. It allows our listeners, our client base to do the same. So, trick question.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say difficult question. What would you say to a person that's thinking, what would you say to a person that's still thinking, are reverse mortgages safe? Or, should I really be looking to apply for one of these today? What would you be saying to that person?
Great question. You know what? Take the time. Really dig deep. Understand the need for it. I may think it's right for you. You may think it's right for them. They have to see it. They have to believe it. So before, consult with those that you trust, those that you love, and understand all the good, the bad, or the shortfalls that come with it. Again, that being said, why do you really need it? Is it a need or a want? And again, it's up to them. And that's probably one of the most puzzling things that I see is, and I see it every day, where I see it, you see it, we talk about it, this is a no-brainer. They have to do it.
Yeah.
They should do it, and they need it. And the problem with that is, I'll think about it. And that's the question that scares me, because what typically that means is they want to do it, they're hesitant, they're scared to do it, and then guess what happens? In a very short amount of time, 6 months in a year, what happens is they get they dig themselves deeper in that debt, and that hole, more debt, more
credit cards. Now what do you do?
And now they come back to us. They come back to you and say, okay, we're ready. Let's go ahead. You call me, and I said, we can't help them.
Yeah.
Last year they were on the cusp. They just qualified for enough to clear out their debt. In this case, now it's a year later. They've gotten themselves in bigger, deeper.
Yeah, more debt. Yeah,
I can't cover that, and that's when it's troublesome. That's when it's that's what I don't like about the. I don't say about the job. That's when that's when it hurts.
You see the other side.
That's the ugly side.
Because you can't help everyone.
And that's when I get passion. That's what I'm saying. Like, seriously, look at it. You know what I mean? It's not just a deal for us, for both of us. Mm-hmm. It's our livelihood. Yes, we get paid by it, but in the short term,
it's helping people.
It's helping people.
Like legitimately helping people.
And that's when I get passionate. When I know that this is right for you, you have to do this. You should do this. It kind of, I got to be careful and pull myself back, because it looks a little too
over the top. But what we're actually trying to do is open their eyes to the fact that this product is the right solution for you.
Absolutely.
And so stop listening to the neighbors, stop listening to your kids, listen to the information I'm giving to you. Hop online, hop on chipadvisor.ca and get that information firsthand.
I'll also say there's a reason why you're thinking about this. So again, I'm not trying to question them or trying to sell them per se, but there's a reason why you're thinking about this, or someone's brought to your attention, because there must be a need for it or a want for it. Basically, you ask yourself that question after our meeting or our call here. What is the reason? Is it going to get better? Is it going to be worse? And ask those that you trust. Weigh down the pros, the cons. Go home and think about it. Write it down. And at that point, you've got to decide. You can't, or I can't push them to do this product. They'll know better. Can you survive if this gets any worse? Will you survive? That's the key. And that's a question you can't answer. I can't answer.
No.
We may know the answer, reality, but they've got to see it. They gotta believe it where, listen, I'm drowning. I'm staying barely afloat. And we can help you today. Now you can think about it, but rest assured, will you be able to float in 6 months to a year? Because you may come back and it may be too late, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or it may, hopefully, we can save it per se.
Yeah.
So that's the question I put back to them. So there's no persuasiveness. There's no, pushing or forcing the issue. They'll know, and hopefully, if they don't know, you give them an educator, you give them a realistic, view of the things. And that's all we can do at the end of the day. And that's the worst part of my job is when I leave here, I leave the office saying, I hope they do that. Not for my financial or your financial gain, but for their really well-being.
Yeah.
And when they do it, I feel good because I know that I've done the right thing for them and of course for us. But when they don't do it, and it's not about us, it's about them. And I'll usually come back and circle event and say, hey, listen, they'll come back to you in 6 months. I just hope that we can still help them. That's the way I leave off in a nutshell.
Do you have any words of wisdom that you want to bestow or give to our viewers or listeners? The Pando closing dialogue.
You gave me with these tough questions again. We're going to stay on the topic of it. I think live and enjoy life to the best you can. You don't know what's waiting around the corner. We don't know what's waiting for us tomorrow. I'm living it. I can only use my example with my passing of both my parents at a young age. And this product, is very near and dear to me because I would have hoped that, knowing all this, I would have made my parents, as much as they can, exert all the funds they could, enjoy their living life. Last years. But who knows? That's the thing. Anyone on this podcast, anyone that's listening, we don't know what's waiting for us around the corner, be it tomorrow. You know what I mean? We have some that are celebrating their 98th birthday, 104th year birthday, and there's others that are gonna, unfortunately get the bad news like my dad did at a younger age. So in keeping that in mind, don't take things for granted and, live the best life that you can for you.
Live life to the fullest.
That's my style and my way of living.
Well, Pando, I want to say thank you very much for coming today and sitting down with us. And for everyone that's listening, I'm going to say Uptown Experts, we're out.